You know, when you look at a massive, towering skyscraper in the middle of a city, you naturally admire the sleek glass facade.
Oh, absolutely. Or, maybe those incredible penthouse views.
Yeah, exactly. But you almost never stop to think about the scaffolding that was used to build it.
Well, because the scaffolding is objectively ugly. I mean, it's temporary. It's just purely functional.
Right. And once the building is strong enough to stand on its own, construction crews tear all that metal framing down.
And society just completely forgets it was ever there.
Exactly.
Uh,
So imagine for a second if someone invented a magical, instantaneous way to erect that skyscraper without ever using scaffolding.
I mean, on paper, that sounds incredibly efficient, like a total game changer for the construction industry.
Right, until the first truly strong storm rolls in. The wind starts howling, and you suddenly realize that the scaffolding wasn't just there to hold up the workers.
Ah, right. It was actually an essential part of the slow, deliberate process that ensured the foundation was poured correctly.
Yes, and that the concrete cured and the steel was bolted tight. Skipping that step creates this structural illusion.
The building looks perfectly solid from the outside, but the core is entirely hollow.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. Today, we are looking at the scaffolding of human expertise.
It's such a fascinating topic.
It really is. We are breaking down a great stack of sources to explore the profound and honestly somewhat hidden way artificial intelligence is completely rewiring the white-collar world.
And we're focusing specifically on the legal profession today as really the perfect microcosm for this shift.
Right, drawing heavily on a thought-provoking new article by Johan Steyn. He's an AI thought leader who focuses on the structural and societal impacts of automation.
Yeah, and we're crossing his insights with some recent hard-hitting reporting from Thomson Reuters, Legal Cheek, and LexisNexis.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because everyone in the business world is currently fixated on how AI is going to eliminate boring, repetitive grunt work.
Oh, everywhere. You hear it in marketing, finance, engineering.
It's certainly in law. But Steyn's article, which is titled Beyond the Grind, Redefining the Legal Apprenticeship in the AI Era, it identifies this ultimate blind spot in the automation gold rush.
Yeah, because no one is asking what happens when that exact boring grunt work was the only mechanism junior employees had to actually learn how to do their jobs.
I have to push back on this premise right out of the gate, though.
Okay, go for it.
Because if we look at the stereotypical life of a first-year associate at a big law firm, it looks a lot more like hazing than education, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, it definitely looks like hazing from the outside.
Right, because nobody goes to law school dreaming of spending their mid-20s buried in a windowless room doing endless document reviews.
Highlighting indemnification clauses at 2 in the morning.
Exactly. And dealing with all these low-value administrative tasks. Isn't this just older generations romanticizing the misery of their 20s? Like, why can't a junior just read the underlying laws and skip the midnight highlighting?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, mechanically, it is actually cognitive conditioning.
Conditioning? How so?
Well, law school teaches the theory of the law, right? But the firm teaches the practice. The traditional legal ladder wasn't just a corporate hierarchy. It was an educational gauntlet built almost entirely on repetition.
Okay, so doing the grunt work over and over.
Exactly. Historically, juniors did all those unglamorous tasks, the research notes, the tedious clause comparisons, the deep dive due diligence, and honestly, they usually did them terribly at first.
Sure, because they're basically rookies.
Right. But through repetition, through failing, and critically, through constant correction from senior partners who would mark up their drafts with red ink, they slowly built what Steyn refers to as legal muscles.
Legal muscles. Okay, walk me through the mechanics of building those legal muscles. What is actually happening in the brain of a junior lawyer when they spend, say, 40 hours comparing two nearly identical contracts?
Well, they're developing pattern recognition. When you read 1,000 standard contracts, the 1,001st contract that contains a subtle hidden liability suddenly just jumps off the page at you.
Ah, I see.
You learn precision. You learn how to spot a hidden issue that a client didn't even know they had. You develop professional judgment.
So the grind itself was the curriculum.
Exactly. Reading a summary of a law doesn't teach you how to meticulously construct a defense. Wrestling with the raw, boring text does.
You know, using generative AI to skip that grind feels a bit like giving a kid a calculator before they've ever learned how to do long division.
Oh, that's a really good analogy.
Right. Sure, they get the right answer instantly. The homework is done in 5 minutes. But if you take the calculator away, or the calculator glitches, they have zero underlying numerical literacy.
Right, they don't actually understand how the numbers interact.
Exactly.
And to build on your calculator metaphor, the problem in a law firm is that the numbers they are calculating can dictate the survival of a business or even a person's freedom.
Wow. Yeah, the stakes are a bit higher than third grade math.
Just a bit. And if a large language model, the massive text generation engines we are calling AI, is now doing the heavy lifting of document review and first drafts, that grunt work is effectively automated away.
Leaving the rookies without a mechanism to build those foundational muscles.
Exactly.
So, that brings us from this sort of theoretical debate about the future of work right into the hard reality of early 2026.
Yeah, we don't even have to guess what happens when you remove the scaffolding anymore.
Right, because the data is already showing massive cracks in the system.
The reporting is genuinely sobering. In February 2026, a report from Legal Cheek revealed that AI is already measurably impacting the judgment of junior lawyers.
Measurably impacting it. How?
Well, the technology is making them significantly faster at producing output, but crucially, it is not making them better at practicing law.
Wait, if they are faster but their judgment is worse, aren't law firms just speeding up their own malpractice risk?
Basically, yeah.
You are effectively weaponizing incompetence.
You are definitely scaling the risk, yes. And lawcareers.net recently cited this alarming research from LexisNexis that puts a hard number on this phenomenon.
What's the number?
They found a staggering 72% of lawyers report their junior colleagues are actively struggling with deep legal reasoning and complex argumentation as the use of AI grows in their firms.
72%. That is wow.
Yeah. Almost 3/4 of senior staff are looking at the next generation and realizing these juniors do not know how to construct or defend a nuanced case.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because Steyn explicitly warns about this dynamic in his article.
He does.
He points out that firms are fundamentally mistaking productivity for development.
Right. A managing partner sees a junior associate outputting, like 10 research briefs a day instead of 2, and the immediate reaction is to reward that efficiency.
But speed does not equal professional formation. Productivity is merely output, whereas formation is about capability and depth.
Exactly. And Steyn zeroes in on a very specific danger regarding how these large language models actually function.
Okay, what's the danger?
Yeah. Well, because these AI engines produce incredibly polished, articulate, and confident text, they completely obscure the messy logical steps required to reach a conclusion.
Because when a human junior makes a mistake, they leave messy tracks.
Right. A senior partner can see where their logic derailed, but when an AI makes a mistake, it produces a flawlessly formatted, grammatically perfect hallucination.
So as a result, juniors risk becoming nothing more than editors of machine output.
Exactly.
That phrase, editors of machine output, is chilling when you really break down the cognitive difference between editing and creating.
It's a completely different brain function.
It is, because if I am editing a document, my brain is operating on a surface level. I'm looking for typos, checking if the tone aligns with our brand, maybe verifying a specific date or a dollar amount. I am not interrogating the structural logic of why a specific legal precedent was applied in paragraph 3 instead of paragraph 4. I just assume the foundation is solid because the paint job looks so good.
A junior lawyer acting as an editor can spot a missing comma, sure, but they might not grasp the underlying legal reasoning beneath the polished surface because they haven't wrestled with the concepts.
They haven't stared at a blank page and agonized over how to connect two disparate pieces of case law.
Exactly. They are just polishing the scaffolding of a building they didn't construct.
So what does this all mean? I want to turn this directly to you, the person listening to this deep dive right now. It is incredibly easy to hear these statistics and think this is just an insular crisis for corporate law firms.
Oh, but it's not.
Not at all. Whether you are eventually going to hire a lawyer, to buy a house, defend your small business, or draft a will, this impacts you.
Yep.
Furthermore, if you are managing a team of juniors in marketing, finance, engineering, or if you're simply trying to upskill in your own career, this shift is universal.
The Thomson Reuters Future of Professionals Report 2025 makes this universality very clear.
What did they find?
They state that generative AI is fundamentally transforming knowledge work broadly over the next 3 years. Professionals across all sectors already see clear, everyday use cases for AI.
Like drafting emails, summarizing complex meetings, conducting initial market research.
Exactly. The transformation is not a future projection. It is currently underway.
And the consequences are going to cascade in ways we aren't preparing for.
Yeah.
Think about the timeline here. 10, 15, 20 years from now, Those junior marketing coordinators, junior financial analysts, and junior lawyers who are currently just editing machine output.
They're going to be promoted.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is that they become the senior partners. They become the general counsel for major multinational corporations. They become the judges sitting on the bench.
Right.
And when they reach those pinnacles of their profession, they will face unprecedented situations. AI cannot make the final strategic call during a hostile corporate takeover.
No, it can't.
An algorithm cannot resolve a completely novel ethical dilemma in society. Those roles require a foundation of careful thought, deep client context, and disciplined reasoning that the old apprenticeship model forced professionals to develop.
So they will be standing at the top of the skyscraper, the wind will blow,
Yeah.
and they will realize there is no steel in the wall.
Precisely. They will possess the titles of experts without the cognitive infrastructure of expertise.
Which means the entire system of jurisprudence, and really any advanced sector of the economy, relies on human leaders being able to navigate the unknown.
You cannot prompt an AI to navigate a crisis it has no training data for. You need humans who fundamentally know how to think.
So we have established a fairly terrifying crisis here.
Yeah, a bit daunting.
But we cannot uninvent artificial intelligence. The Pandora's box is wide open, and the Thomson Reuters data proves adoption is happening at lightning speed.
Right. Banning AI in your workplace is not a viable solution. You would render your company entirely uncompetitive within months.
And pretending the old grinded-out apprenticeship model still works is incredibly naive because the economic incentives to use AI are just too massive.
Yeah.
So how are the smartest players actually adapting to the fact that the scaffolding is gone?
Well, we are starting to see some genuinely innovative structural responses. A January 2026 Reuters report highlighted a radical step being taken by the elite law firm Ropes & Gray.
Okay, what are they doing?
They are officially allowing their junior lawyers to spend 20% of their billable time exploring AI.
Wait, let's look at the economics of that. Billable hours are the absolute lifeblood of a law firm. Giving up 20% of a junior's billable time is sacrificing millions of dollars in immediate revenue.
It is a massive investment.
What does that 20% actually look like in practice?
They are paying juniors to experiment. They are carving out dedicated, non-punitive space to build best practices and actively learn how to integrate this technology into actual client work safely.
So they aren't just handing a junior an AI login and demanding they process contracts twice as fast.
No, they are treating the technology as a subject of intense, deliberate study.
It sounds like we have to shift from learning by osmosis, which is the old model, where you just absorb knowledge by swimming in a massive sea of paperwork.
Right.
We have to shift from that to learning by simulation. Think about how we train commercial airline pilots.
Okay.
A pilot doesn't learn how to handle a dual engine failure by waiting for it to happen randomly on a flight with 300 passengers.
Let's hope not.
Right. They get into a highly realistic controlled flight simulator, and they deliberately practice the emergency procedures over and over until the muscle memory is ironclad.
That simulator metaphor is perfect. But the critical problem in the white-collar world right now is that nobody is building the simulator.
We just took away the co-pilot seat and told the juniors to fly the plane.
Exactly. And Steyn's solution in his article addresses this void directly. He says training must become aggressively deliberate. We can no longer rely on the passive byproduct of grunt work.
But how do you build a white-collar simulator? If the AI is doing the grunt work, how are humans intentionally taught the high-level skills?
This raises an important question for leadership. Law firm leaders, and really leaders in any knowledge-based industry, must fundamentally change their management mindset.
Good.
Instead of asking, can AI do this junior's work faster? They must ask, how will this junior actually learn the mechanics of this business? Steyn outlines that this requires highly intentional mentoring. It requires supervised review of AI-assisted output.
So a senior partner can't just review the final polished document anymore. They have to sit down and review how the junior prompted the AI.
Yeah.
They have to evaluate how the junior interrogated the AI's logic.
Yes.
That takes an enormous amount of time.
It takes significantly more time than the old method of quickly marking up a paper draft with a red pen. I mean, a senior partner might intentionally feed a junior a flawed AI-generated contract and demand they find the 3 ways it exposes their client to risk.
Oh, like an active drill.
Exactly. Furthermore, Steyn argues this requires universities and candidate training programs to completely pivot.
Right, because legal education can no longer assume that basic reasoning will naturally emerge from a junior's first 3 years on the job.
Universities have to explicitly teach close reading, complex argumentation, and ethical judgment before these candidates ever set foot in a corporate office.
Because the firm simply does not have the volume of busy work to train them on anymore. If the latter is changing, you cannot simply hope the capability to climb it will magically appear.
No, you really can't. And looking comprehensively across Steyn's analysis, the Thomson Reuters reports, and the LexisNexis data, the ultimate takeaway is stark.
What's the bottom line?
AI is doing far more than just changing how legal tasks are executed. It is fundamentally dismantling the professional apprenticeship.
The companies that will survive and thrive over the next decade won't be the ones that merely use AI to cut drudgery and artificially boost their short-term profit margins.
Right.
They will be the organizations that use AI to completely redesign human learning with immense intention.
Steyn captures the stakes perfectly in his conclusion. The future of complex knowledge work depends entirely not on what a machine can draft, summarize, or review. It depends on whether the next generation of professionals still learns how to think.
Learning how to think. It sounds so basic, yet it is entirely at risk.
It really is.
Which leaves us with a final lingering thought for you to mull over. We've established that in the old legal ladder, doing the boring grunt work, that's how juniors learned. What we haven't mentioned is that the clients unknowingly subsidize that entire education.
Oh, that's a great point.
When a client paid massive billable hours for a team of juniors to manually review thousands of documents, the client was footing the bill for those juniors to build their legal muscles.
The client funded the apprenticeship under the guise of necessary labor.
But if future training requires 20% non-billable exploration time, like we see at Ribs and Grid,
Right.
plus the creation of dedicated corporate flight simulators, plus intensive, deliberate one-on-one mentoring from senior partners whose time is astronomically expensive,
Wow.
who's going to pay for the training of the next generation of experts.
That is the big question.
If the client is no longer paying for the grunt work, who foots the bill for the education? Will true, deeply formed human expertise become such a rare and expensive commodity to produce that it transforms into a luxury good?
It completely upends the underlying economics of all professional services.
It really does. So the next time you look at a skyscraper, think about the scaffolding. Think about what holds up the expertise in your own industry and ask yourself what happens when it is gone. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. We'll see you next time.